Kelly O'Dwyer joins us now. Good afternoon, Kelly.
Good afternoon, Tom.
And Richard Miles looking fresh and happy, straight off the plane from Canberra. Good afternoon, Richard.
Good afternoon, Tom. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
Hi, Richard.
Now, the budget the other night, Kelly, a week ago I said to you, will there be any broken promises in the budget? You said, well, let's just wait and see. We got an increase in the petrol tax. We got this new $7 co-payment for visiting the doctor. And for people on more than $180,000 a year, we now have a 2% deficit levy for the next 3 years. Were these broken promises?
Well, we made a commitment to the electorate that we were going to fix the budget, and that is what we have set about doing.
But do these fix them?
Well, this is part of the overall package of structural reform. This is, you can't look at any one measure in isolation. You have to consider what we were left with. And this was the point I was making last week when we had the opportunity to talk about this. We are in a really difficult position because we were left with debts and deficits spiralling out, to $667 billion over a 10-year period. That debt has got to be paid down because it comes with interest payments. We recognise we have to do that, and there are also structural problems. As the Commission of Audit pointed out, we're looking, for instance, at pension payments that we're paying $40 billion today, but in 10 years' time it's going to effectively double. We need to look at how we can make sure that we put the budget on a sustainable footing going forward so that we do not rob future generations and we do not constrain them to a lower standard of living.
Now, Richard Miles, your leader, the great leader, the dear leader, Bill Shorten, gave a very good speech in the Parliament last night, I thought. He opposed everything that the Liberal Party wanted to do in the budget. So do you have an alternative plan?
Well, last night, Bill Shorten stood up for pensioners. He stood up for people who want to see a doctor and universal access to health. He stood up for the proposition that it shouldn't matter how much money you've got in your pay packet in terms of getting better if you are sick. He stood up for all those people in the outer suburbs, in regional cities like Geelong, who use their cars a lot, to make sure that you shouldn't have to pay more in tax when you fill up at the Bowser. And all Bill said last night was that Labor was going to defend all of those people, and we need to do that because this is a budget full of broken promises. This is a budget which speaks of all the lies that Tony Abbott told before the last election, and Australians shouldn't have to pay for them.
Well, Richard, I'd have to challenge you on that. I mean, when I was listening to that speech last night, I thought, Tom, with all due respect to you, I thought it was the same old Labor class.
When people say that, it usually means I don't respect what you say.
I respect you immensely, Tom. I do respect you immensely, which is why, I'm shocked to disagree with you so much on Bill Shorten's speech last night. I thought it was the same old Labor class war rhetoric. There were no solutions offered in anything that Bill Shorten had to say. He made a number of empty promises. We've heard all of that before, all these promises. Who can forget all the promises of surpluses that they never ever delivered? And they have no intention of delivering. Everything was unfunded. Not one new policy initiative, not one expression of how they were going to fix the problem. In fact, Bill Shorten stood up there and said in the Parliament, what problem? What problem was created?
Well,
the Australian people are not stupid, Richard. You can't dupe them.
We're a country which has a AAA credit rating, one of only 10 in the world. We're a country which put 1 million more people into jobs during the global economic crisis when all the other countries in the developed world were shedding jobs. We're a country which grew by 15% over the last 5 years when other countries were shrinking.
But what Bill
when you
Shorten
talk about a budget emergency, there is no budget emergency. All of this pain...
Have you read the Commission of Audit? Have you looked at this? Do you think that there's a structural problem with the budget, Richard? It's a simple question.
All of this pain is in pursuit of a confection by the Liberals, and it's as simple as that. There is not the need to do this. And I tell you this:
borrow and spend. Borrow and spend.
Are there
future generations?
Are there long-term challenges in the budget? Of course, there are long-term challenges in the budget. But
so at least you accept that.
You accept that there are structural problems. You do not solve that, Kelly, by paying $50,000 to millionaires in order to have a baby, and this budget provided for that as well.
Now, can I just ask you quickly, Richard, are you going to oppose, three big things being the petrol tax, the $7 GP co-payment and the deficit levy? Firstly, the deficit levy on higher income earners. Will you oppose that?
Well, look, we'll have a look at that. The
Tax the rich, Richard.
the priority at the moment.
They love taxing.
If we're talking about who loves taxing, if we're talking about who loves taxing, we're talking about a government which in the last 7 days has put taxes on petrol, on the deficit,
we'll deal with those in a moment,
going to a doctor. But in answer to your question, we'll have a look at that. But our priority at the moment is to make sure that Medicare provides universal access to people. Everyone can see a doctor no matter how much money you've got, no matter without paying. So that universal free access to health should be not dependent on how much money you've got in your pocket.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think then it is fair and justified for people to make a contribution under the pharmaceutical benefit scheme, which is currently what we have? So you think that that's not universal access? You think that that's somehow a tax on people?
We have got the first time, Kelly, since 1984 that people are going to have to pay to see a doctor. Now this is a full frontal assault on bulk billing.
No, the Labor Party brought that in.
There was 3 months in 1991.
Bob Hawke brought it in 1991. It was actually a Labor. It was a Labor policy to begin with. And can I say to you, I agree with the Labor Party on that point, because I think it is right for there to be a price signal when people visit the doctor, just as there are price signals for everything else in life, and that will go to making sure that we have a sustainable system going forward so that other people can benefit from a universal system of healthcare.
There is a huge number of people in our community for whom $7 is a disincentive to get better. That is a disgrace.
Let's go to some calls while we're all in furious agreement and disagreement with each other. 96900 693 13 13 32. Rob, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tom, Kelly and Richard. Richard, I'd like to ask you just a simple question. How does the Labor Party intend to fund the NDIS, the Gonski School reforms, the old age pension, and all the other giveaways into the future? How are you going to do it? You're going to have to raise taxes. You're going to have to raise money to pay for it from somewhere. Where are you going to get the money from?
All right, good question, Rob.
Well, first of all, Rob, the idea that we have a budget emergency now, which warrants what we've seen in the last week, is just not right. I
want to do a Tony Jones on you. You've said that before. Let's just answer Rob's question.
Labor put in place the private health insurance rebate, which was opposed by the coalition, a measure that would raise money. Labor has proposed to see global multinationals, companies like Google, actually pay tax in this country, given that they earn revenue from this country, a measure which is opposed by the coalition. Labor stands for removing the baby bonus, again, something that was opposed by the coalition. There are a range of measures that we have put forward about meeting the long-term challenges, meeting the long-term challenges which exist in this budget, but they are long-term challenges, and the idea that you do what has happened in the last 7 days, and that is put a focus on those who have the least capacity to shoulder the most of the burden, is ridiculous.
All right, we better go to a break. It's 18 to 5. Richard Miles wants to tax Google, maybe Amazon, maybe Apple as well. Good luck, I say. They're very good at evading tax around the world. 96900 693 13 13 32. Calls coming up.
It's the stories you know. You choose to bump and you collect another player high. We now know that means you're going to be looked at.
And the ones you don't.
Darren Goldsmith, I got a free kick right in front, 40 metres out, and if I had a kick to goal, it would have put us in front. Goldie said, gee, this is a big kick, Richo.
Every footy story, every weekend, and all the action of Essendon versus Sydney. Tonight from 6.
With thanks to your local Toyota dealer. 3AW is football.
Hear ye, hear ye! Winter is coming! It's time to beat the cold now! Magnetite fitted to your windows reduces energy cost by up to 60% and reduces noise pollution by up to 70%! Magnetite is retrofit double glazing, not a film! All hail Magnetite!
Magnetite! Magnetite! Magnetite!
Call 1300 30 40 82 or visit magnetite.com.au.
If you're tired of the mundane and average and want to see the very best, don't miss this Sunday's auction of the contents of an inner-city mansion. There'll be important traditional and modern artworks, stunning English and French furniture, museum-quality Asian and European antiquities, a Tiffany grandfather clock, antique bronzes and rugs, Grange Hermitage wines, an extensive racehorse library, and much more. For details and photos, visit fineauctions.biz or Google Philip Caldwell Auctioneers.
On 9 News, the jailing of disgraced Hey Dad star Robert Hughes. A sex pest preying on joggers with headphones. Touch and go, why are major banks under fire? And T-shirts and a cuppa in honour of Tommy. 9 News, tonight at 6.
Slater and Gordon are experts in asbestos compensation and care about achieving the best outcome for you. So if you've been diagnosed with or think you might have an asbestos-related disease, talk to them. With more asbestos specialists and an extensive database, they can help identify the source of your exposure quickly. And they work on a no-win, no-fee basis. Call 1-800-555-615 or visit slatergordon.com.au. Slater and Gordon. Conditions apply.
Go Harvey Norman, go!
Harvey Norman Bosch stock clearance on now. Big deals on all Bosch washers, dryers, dishwashers, cooking appliances and vacs. Plus, bonus delivery on Bosch appliances. Plus, more hot bonus offers on selected Bosch dishwashers, Bosch freestanding ovens and washers. And $300 cash back on selected Bosch washer and dryer packages. Do not miss your chance to save. Hurry, the Harvey Norman Bosch stock clearance must end Monday. Delivery within 25 k's of store. Excludes Bosch vacuum cleaners. Cash back by redemption. Conditions apply. See store for details.
Australia, get into Coles for fresh Aussie fruit and veg.
Delicious clementine mandarins at a super special price of just $2.50 a kilo. Just $2.50.
Feed your family fresh Aussie fruit and veg at Coles.
Want to find the perfect place for your next weekend escape? We asked you to share your favourite experiences across Victoria, from the undiscovered, the overlooked, the already famous, and the must-do moments. Find these and more of Victoria's hidden gems at theage.com.au/ourpatch.
3AW's Top Choice.
Adriatic Furniture's massive floor stock clearance is on now. Receive up to 50% off their entire range. Adriatic Furniture. Exclusive, yes. Expensive, no.
See 3aw.com.au/Top Choice.
Drive with Tom Ellliott.
The Living Room, 7:30 tonight after the project. Turn on 10.
14 to 5 calls at the moment. Just quickly, the two of you, quite a few of these new taxes, if we're allowed to call them that. Joe Hockey calls them tax adjustments, not new taxes. May have to go to a separate vote. Is it possible that we might have to go to a fresh election? Richard, you first.
I just think we'd like to see the promises from the last election kept first before we go to a new one.
Kelly, a new election. Would you be prepared to go to a double dissolution if the all aspects of the budget don't get passed?
Well, I think, we consider we've got a mandate to fix the budget, and we'd like to make sure that the Labor Party, the Greens and the Independents all work with us to make sure we can deliver on that commitment. I don't think people want to go to an election. I think they're sick of elections and they want the government to govern, and that's what we're trying to do.
I agree with that, but there's no mandate for new taxes. There's a mandate actually for the opposite.
Well, speaking of mandates, I mean, you can't really talk about mandates when you refuse to abolish the carbon tax, which was, a massive mandate provided to our government.
Well, that's a good distraction from what's occurred this week. But the reality of this week is that there was no mandate for any new taxes or increases in taxes or cuts to Medicare.
It has occurred to me the increased petrol tax is a sort of a carbon tax of its own. Just quickly though, if there is another election, the member for Fairfax, one Clive Palmer, reckons he will end up being the new Prime Minister. I noticed he fell asleep in Parliament the other day. Is this possible?
Is it possible to fall asleep? I wasn't sure until I saw Clive do it. But
he did do it. He did it on a number of occasions. In fact, Mal Brough had to go over with a glass of water and revive him. Yes.
He didn't throw it in his face, did he?
No, he put it down and gave him a gentle tap on the shoulder.
All right, let's go to some calls. Patricia, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tom. I was just wondering if someone could explain the removal of the supplement to us pensioners that was paid because of the increase in utility prices, and the carbon tax hasn't been removed yet.
No, you get to keep the hi Patricia, it's Kelly. You get to keep your carbon tax compensation. We made a commitment before the last election that we weren't going to remove that.
Why? I mean, there's no carbon tax.
It was a commitment that we made before the last election, but we're going to remove. Well, it was part of the compact that we made with the Australian people that we were not going to
compensate people for something that you're going to get rid of.
Well, we're trying to get rid of it. At the moment, we haven't been able to, not through lack of trying, but again, as I say, because we've been blocked by the Labor Party, who refuse to abolish it and who are playing political games despite the fact we've been given a mandate and despite the fact that they know the average household will benefit by more than $550 a year in getting rid of the carbon tax.
That's just been eroded in the last week in terms of all the new taxes.
No, that's not true.
Well, it is. If you look at Patricia, who's on a pension, the level at which her pension is now going to be indexed going forward is significantly less.
She's not going to lose any money.
Of course, she's going to lose money.
It's not being cut, and this is what you're being disingenuous about.
No, that is being tricky, Kelly, because in this sense, if her pension had been indexed on the basis that you have now proposed over the last 4 years, her pension would be significantly less than what it is now.
Well, I think I should respond to that because what Richard is suggesting is that there's somehow going to be a change tomorrow on the indexation arrangements with respect to pensions.
There is going to be a change.
After the next election, on the 1st of July 2017, the indexation arrangements, instead of being male total average weekly earnings, will be CPI, which is the consumer price index, which is the cost of living and inflation.
And which is less.
And at which time Clive Palmer might be the Prime Minister.
Well,
Bruce, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm a pipe fitter by trade, and I've been made redundant, and they've kept all the 457 visa workers on, and they've sacked 300 Australian metal workers on the job of Barrow Island. Why didn't the 457 visa workers go?
Now, Richard, you're the Shadow Minister for Immigration. What would you do about 457 visas?
Well, the first thing to say about 457 visas is that they should not be used as an industrial instrument to stop Australians working. And so what Bruce has just described there is a deep concern. Because if 457s are being used to replace Australians who could do that work, then they are not being used in the way that they should be. I mean, 457s have a place where there's a gap in the economy and there's no Australians wanting to do the job. But if Bruce wants to do that job, he should come first. And that was why we put in place labour market testing, which has been removed by this government.
Except for the fact, though, that the former minister had actually claimed, the former Labor minister claimed that there was huge rorting of 457 visas, and when asked to produce examples of this, couldn't actually provide examples.
But we've got an example on the phone,
Bruce,
Kelly.
I'm terribly sorry. Well, no, he hasn't said that he's been replaced by 457.
Well,
and Bruce, I'm
exactly
sorry.
What he's saying.
I'm very sorry that you've lost your job, and I think, anybody who's lost their job, I mean, it's tragic for any individual and their families. But there is a place, as Richard has said, and I would agree with him on this, for 457 visas, where we need the skills in our country in order to help us grow. And it's a very specific skill set, and we review it from time to time. So it's not looking at taking jobs away from anybody, it's adding to the capacity we have in Australia.
Then?
Well, people unfortunately do lose jobs from time to time when companies go bust. I mean, you might want to talk to your union friends about industrial action that they take and forcing companies to effectively shut down
but you're
through,
not saying,
through
surely,
their unrealistic
Kelly,
demands.
That 457 visas should be used to replace people who Australians who are able to do the job, such as Bruce.
We need to draw a line under this because we have run out of time. I do appreciate the two of you coming in here. I'm sorry to all the people who wanted to speak to Richard and Kelly. They will be back in possibly a week, certainly a fortnight. Kelly O'Dwyer, Richard Miles, thanks for your time.
Thanks,
you.
Tom.
More calls coming up. It's 8 to 5.
Hello, Peter Mitchell. Tonight on 7 News, a disgraced former TV star's jail term for child sex abuse. More controversy over the planned Melbourne rail link and the Tigers' heartfelt Hunt Road tribute to Tommy Hafey. See the pictures. 7 News tonight at 6.
This is a man who bought a cheap air conditioner, opening his electricity bill. And here's next month. If only he'd bought a Dakin reverse cycle split system. For energy efficiency, reliability, and Australia's first 7-star energy-rated split system, visit dakin.com.au. Dakin. Trust the air conditioning specialists. Sorry, cheap air conditioner man. Here's your next electricity bill.
Renovation's finally finished.
Not quite. A few new items to finish.
Our old stuff is fine.